Hello everyone, my name is Kont and in this video I will talk about music albums that were made in prison by people who were serving time at the moment of recording those albums. First, I will talk about the most infamous albums and artists, and as the list goes on, we'll get to the more obscure ones. Obviously, we have to start at Charles Manson because of him being one of the most known criminals in the world. Sentenced to life in 1971 for multiple first-degree murders and for conspiring that resulted in more murders, he stayed in California State Prison until 2017, where he died from a cardiac arrest. I don't want to talk too much about him, you all know who this guy is and what he did. So let's look at his discography instead. His first and biggest album was Sly, The Love and Terror Cult. A very interesting album with a cover art parodying a cover of a Life magazine issue about Manson. The craziest thing about this album is that its early version was made with help of and in the studio of the Beach Boys, one of the most famous bands of the 60s and 70s. And although these recordings were never released, they are possibly the same or very similar to the ones on the album. And the music itself isn't quite bad. The guy could really create quite nice contemporary folk atmosphere.
Look at your game, girl. What a mad delusion.
But it's not really a prison album. The songs were recorded between Manson's sentences, so let's look further.
Walk back through that lonesome road.
Saints Are Hell on Earth, recorded in 1983 or 1985 depending on the source, released in 1988, is a much more peaceful piece of music.
And superstitious, judicious and superstitious, and I see the missus.
Soft singing or spoken word, quiet guitar, and the background noise and chatter of prison create a great atmosphere that I could truly study and relax to. Next one is Commemoration, recorded in a medical facility between 82 and 85, a record celebrating his 60 years of fighting against the system, I guess.
I bring all my shadows on my rainbows and my tattles on my rattles.
This record has a more aggressive style to it, with freakish screams and faster guitar playing, at least for the first half of it.
Keep living in my dream. I see you red. Oh, red, how you doing? Red, you better not get too fat, girl.
There is a lot of stuff that I could say about his recordings, as he released a ton of speeches, live albums, remasters. There are also Manson family recordings and some interesting never released projects. So I think I'll leave it for another video. Now let's get to his last original material, 2005's One Mind.
Into your soul, where the roses bloom within my head.
What strikes me the most about this album is how after all those years in prison, Manson could still create a nice song, even though I think that this album is his bleakest. Also, I think that it's the saddest one.
A little bit can go a long way, I'm sure.
In conclusion, Charles Manson, shit person, cool music, and that's enough of him. Varg Vikernes, a legend among black metal fans and creator of Burzum. He released 4 albums before getting imprisoned, and all of them are considered masterpieces to this day. Sentenced for a murder and several church burnings, served a 16-year sentence between 1993 and 2009. During which he recorded 2 albums, Though the Balders in 97 and Hitskjalf in 99. He was given a very limited access to instruments while in prison, and it can definitely be heard. The first one is a concept album telling Nordic mythological stories with synths. The album features a lot of loud, obnoxious and repetitive sounds, which can get stale pretty quickly. I personally enjoy it, but it's definitely not for everyone. Hitskjalf, on the other hand, while also being inspired by Nordic mythology, creates a much more peaceful atmosphere. I feel like this album could be a soundtrack to an RPG game, with tracks reminding of nature, but others reminding of cities and civilization. I Have Know Everything Here by Zomba Prison Music is probably the saddest one on this list, being recorded in a very poor, brutal and overcrowded prison in Malawi, with some people doing time for homosexuality or witchcraft, unrightfully imprisoned, unable to defend themselves in court. The album was released in 2015 and got wide attention. It was even nominated for a Grammy,
Ena gumakala masaluni gumangana masisi mamuna aligone. Ena gumakala misika gugulisa nyezi mamuna aligone.
The album has 20 tracks on which you can hear 16 different people performing mostly traditional music of South African region.
Antono mulindi sambi mukundi pera mwana kodiana kwa jani ambale.
The one positive thing is that its popularity led to release of several women from the prison. Time for some rap music. Californian rapper Xrated was jailed in 1999 for gang-related rape and murder. He served 26 years and was released in 2018. In that time he released 14 albums. Now, I don't think I am gangsta enough to sit through all of them in a couple days, so let's look at the two first ones.
Joke on my number blood, based on the fact ain't no motherfucking love for your hood. I'm killing up everything I'm hating and I hate your hood, so I'm premeditating.
Exorcist, the first one made in jail and second in his career, came out in 1995. And the amazing thing is that all the vocals were recorded entirely through a phone. Obviously, the sound quality on vocals is horrible and half of the time I have no fucking idea what he's saying.
If you ask somebody about the X, he'll say
you should've known what time it was from the get-go.
But during the moments when beats don't drown the vocals, you can really hear that the guy has talent. Lyrics obviously represent typical gangsta rap tropes, drugs, violence, but he also talks about his time spent on trial and in jail. The album isn't bad. I'd say that it's one level above a typical gangsta rap album from West Coast. His next one, The Unforgiven Volume 1, has much better quality because it was recorded on an actual DAT machine smuggled into his jail cell, possibly by a guard.
Got stabbed in the shower and threw off the third chair, but you ain't plumping no fear with those deceitful conversations. Saying you coming for me, but nigga, I'm still waiting. The gang you busters like I'm some whiteout. Think you can see me, I can't be seen, I touch the.
And I have to say, this is some quality shit. Some of the tracks hit really hard, with actually great flows and lyricism. I mean, listen to a track called Mortal Kombat, it's really good.
It's a 50G contract. I don't know what you did, but they wanna kill you, your wife and your kids. Mortal Kombat.
Another rapper spitting bars from jail is C Murder, imprisoned since 2002 for a murder and currently serving a life sentence.
Long way out true, it comes with the job. Let's take a ride, grab the pearl I brought you. This world is yours, just do what I taught you. Bulletproof on the bands that I gave.
In his 2005 album, The Truest Shit I Ever Said, all of the vocals are recorded through a recorder by his lawyer during visiting hours. The album itself has quite laid-back style, but it's also quite uninspired and honestly boring.
My block, my spot, my stop, stay hot. My truck, stay drop. My waist, stay glock. My city, my hoes, my friends, my foes. Everybody knows, keep it real or get you on dope.
After that, the guy released a few more quite successful albums, his latest ones being 2016's Penitentiary Chances with Snoop Dogg and Yella on it. Let's switch to soul music. What happens when 4 musicians get imprisoned in one place at the same time? This happens.
I really feel we can make it.
We can make it.
So we both sing the same thing.
Same thing.
Eyes of Love is a beautiful 8-track long album recorded in one take by a band that called themselves The Edge of Daybreak. Despite very harsh conditions in the prison, the album is positive, with songs about love and hopes of freedom.
What have you done to make true what you say? You're wishing and hoping, you shouldn't have to wait.
The last artist I want to talk about is J.B. Smith, sentenced in 1950s to 45 years for murder and multiple assaults and robberies. During the time he served, he was visited by a folklorist who was traveling from prison to prison, recording songs that were sung during work of the prisoners.
I got too much time for it. Oh man, for the crime I.
J.B. Smith also recorded some songs that he had sang to himself about his thoughts of current situation and his future. J.B. did a number of recordings that were later compiled into Ever Since I Have Been a Man Full Grown, and then a much longer compilation, No More Good Time in the World for Me, in 2015.
No more good time, buddy. Oh man.
And that is all. Thank you for watching and let me know what you think about this video. See ya!